true that I'm about to tell you now, which is where the title of the show came from. The punker has a habit of quoting me in public. And every time he quotes me, I have no idea where it came from. I look at the person next to me and say, I never said that in my life. One time, recently, he was speaking. And he said, at Pangea, we work a production until it sounds like jazz. I'm quoting jOtis Powell. And again, I said, I never said that in my life. So I'm saying it now, and you can say it too. We can all quote the punker or me or wherever that came from and give anybody credit for what you want. Because I hope by the end of the evening, we all sound like jazz. One of my mentors, Lady Balaka, has a wonderful line in an essay of his in a book called Home. And it says, And so to name something is to wait for it in a place you think it will pass. We're going to pass sounding like jazz pretty soon. The first poem is inspired, as all of my poems are, by many different sources. A primary source for the inspiration of this poem is a recording titled Beneath Tone's Floors, or Beneath Tone's Floor, depending on whether you believe the CD or the liner notes. But I have used Beneath Tone's Floor because I had a choice and I chose that. The recording is by Uyene Thomas on reeds, Michael Wimley on percussions, and a bass player named Salome. It happened to have been the last recording of Salome. Uluyeme's wife, Ijoma Thomas, wrote a poem titled Revolution for Salome. And it gave me a different understanding of revolution than I'd ever had in my life, because she described a revolution as an artist, an instrument. So with that understanding, I've written Ancient Young Souls. In 10-finger time talking with vocal chords of eardrum essence, the never-rooted, rutted revolution sheds winter's weight. Extended solo, a single word for death and life. That's a quote from Ijoma Thomas's poem, Revolution. Beneath Tone's floor, vibrate ghosts of ancestors. Struggle is evidence everywhere, so too are spirits we know. Bendable young trees, skins of bovine, gazelle, buffalo, and deer. Wooden box drums, drawers of dressers, and shipping crates, seashells, ram horns, elephant tusk, weeds as weeds, weeds as weeds in wind-blown truth. And metal, heated, bent, then cooled to channel tones through ebony wood and our bodies as first ones to make music, dancing atop naked earth, floors, clouds, ephemera, and asphalt, singing dissonances and jagged harmonies that change key and register in irregular meter with falsetto, slap, clapping, hands, chest, hams, and bones, finger popping, new anthems of change. Dominant culture, up, under, down, up, under, don't bother me, down, up, under, don't bother me, is ceiling as foundation, entrance to bottomless sky. From rebirth to death right, from death right to rebirth, and back again, reincarnated many times over into to a perpetual motion of life and death, all in one breath. Life and death in one word, in one breath. Living a revolution as an instrument, calling for the further, for the sun, for the spirit. Fasting through hunger for callings to this. Are souls holding bodies, or are we letting go? Are souls holding bodies, or are we letting go? We don't know anything. We don't know anything except play, write, pray. Play, write, play. Work, sweat, die. Our bodies fall from grace to taste demise, to escape exhaustion. And where do souls go? Where do souls go when they leave our instrument? Does it sound like jazz yet? I don't know what jazz sounds like to you, so it's an honest question. I don't know.
It doesn't sound like last night.
What does that mean?
Hey, Dad, you played that shit last night.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep checking with you because you're not supposed to leave here without it sounding like jazz. So you can't leave until it sounds like jazz. If it never sounds like jazz, we'll be here forever. We got water and stuff. This, like almost everything we do, we cats, you know, we collaborated things together. Has taken on new form in the rehearsal process. It started out as a poem about how often relationships are like war, and have a lot of scenes that take place in foxholes. But because they are often intimate relationships, we have tea parties in these foxholes too. So this is Tea Party in a Foxhole. I'm enrolled, albeit fictitiously, in the school of Udra, committed at last to philosophy expressed by Udrite, the school of poets, who, when Nothing. A veteran tradition and its complaints of singleness and unrest, of union and disunion. Dogon avatars carrying Gwende through the ages, and I am inside their dark rhapsody, stitching together lost memory and mystic roots. I'm helplessly in love, but running from towards something firm, enlightening. Love is ugly. Conjunctive and disjunctive cadences inspired by revision instead of lies. Something so delicate that I can hardly even express what it is without risking failure. We know the danger of going too far too quickly. We know the pathos of saying nothing, doing nothing, procrastinating to avoid rigor. I fall in love too easily. And I'm not ashamed or afraid. I'm confessing love without a clue what it means. The language needed most can't be found, so I'm speaking with broken voice, in cliche, in abstractions, babble. I'm speaking in babble, in cliche, in abstractions, because I love again, and I've fallen too quickly, too deeply already. Why wait until magic wears off? I want to be foolish while I still can. I want to speak in tongues while your spell is on me. Love is dark, masquerading as light. Light is thin trajectories through solid night. Love is hippopotamus. With a thick, hairy body, short legs, large head, mammoth heart that beats outside the body. Our condition, this embracing, this socializing at tea parties, for hours on end, oblivious to time, submerged in the enthusiasm of being found. This river has fled before. We could know better. We should know better. But we think we can predict rain, warming, thawing, seasons. Weather gets worse as climate evolves from living off dead things, fossil fuels, coal, nukes, and lies, especially lies, consuming bovine duff. We're suspended in disbelief. We're beyond where anything can live. The most meaningless cliches come seasonally, so we pretend to know what we're talking about. We feel adoration. We know amity. We aspire to devotion. We are possessed. Though we speak in octopus ink to each other, the toxic atmosphere leaves us in a fall of frustration, speaking different Englishes. We do different dances. There's surface tension, stitching both sides of the epidermis, putting 8 arms, 8 directions, mixing metaphors, surrounded by voices and languages we can't completely apprehend or trust. Octopus ink, fabrications, myths, wanting what's impossible. Every sentence uttered is full, because no one knows what to say. Say something anyway, as long as the other
This next piece is a kind of a video poem, portrait, ode to my friend, just a minute. To my friend George Earth Sr., who is an old friend of mine. I've known George almost for 30 years. And George is the one of the hereditary chiefs of the White Earth Indian Reservation. He's full-blood Ojibwe Anishinaabe. Lives up in a little town called Calgary, Minnesota, Black Duck, Bemidji area. And I just love the hell out of George. He's adopted me as his brother a few years ago, and I went to his son's funeral here not too long ago this spring. And we just got to be really close, and I spend as much time with George as I can. He has given me, he's a very generous guy. He has given me a lot of information and a lot of life experiences around the culture and the spirituality of the Native people. And I feel really blessed by that, and I also feel like I've become really close to George, and he feels the same way about me, and there's a real nice sharing there, and that's what this is. It's really kind of a video poem to George. So,
I started dancing when I was real young. I don't know, I used to go to those balls, used to dance, and I had no costume or anything, dance. And then I started drinking when I was young, so my mom told me not to do that. You can't get out the circle. I couldn't get in there because she'd tell me not to do that. So I just kind of left things alone. Then I started again when I was in my middle 20s, or when I was young. I used to grass dance. And I did that for a little while, I don't know, 2-3 years maybe. I did grass dance and dancing, going to falls, and trying to practice my principles again as an Indian person, you know, heritage stuff and spiritual value. Then I started drinking again, and then I left it alone for a long time, and then I finally sobered up and started dancing. Well, I danced off and on all my life. The circle, you know, when we get out there in that circle of Powell circle, you know, Powell dancing and that circle, that was our way of life. And that's the way we got our healing or whatever was going on with us, we used that as a way of learning. We learned from the elders. The elders used to be the main ones at a Powell. No youngsters. It was all elders. And it goes down to, you had to be mature to go there. And you were taught that. When I was young, I could never go in those rings. If I went over there, they told me to sit still. It's on a dub in the mud, they'd say to me, and I'd have to sit there and listen. I couldn't get up and dance around or run around in the ring or do anything like that. I feel good when I get done dancing. That's why I dance all the time out there. I dance all the time. I dance because I hear the drumming, and I dance for the spirit. Spiritual way of life. So I dance for.
There's a phrase I've been familiar with for a long time. I've been a student of what they call jazz music since I was in junior high school. I had some cousins up north who wore my coat a long time ago. And there's a phrase that people use called free jazz that's been with me. The only time it really mattered to me, for the first time it really mattered to me, was I was working with a musician who shall remain nameless, who said there's no such thing as free jazz. And at that time, I argued with him. I don't know who was right or who was wrong, or if it matters. But recently, I've had an encounter with the word that gives me a whole other perspective on free jazz. I will name this person. His name is Wadada Leo Smith.
So said Wadada
Leo Smith. Yeah. My friend Steve asked me, what does Wadada mean? I said, well, Wikipedia thinks it means Leo Smith. But Wadada thinks it means love. Wadada, in commenting about his music, said, free jazz is not relevant to our music. Because our music is based off of systems. And systems aren't free. We'll get back to that later. Biography unfolds and we find us bound in habit, tied to identity, her story, their story, acculturated, assimilated. What turns us inside tonight or nothing? What makes us crazy? Makes us remember, forget. Walk loosely, a tall, elegant griot advised. Let it hang like it's got nowhere better to be. Push meaning to an upper register where falsetto is aspiration. Wow. So they know what it is to be fierce. Be soft. Be gentle. Cry. Ugly. Fair. True blues is a news, but baritone notes from a tenor horn can move ancestors. Fire is needed more than light, so orange lilies scream at the sun. That's Duende, I announced. I scream to ease my troubled mind, she said, to breathe inside thickness and doubt, to throw others off my scent. That's catharsis, we agreed. Flower is a lonesome thing when it screams. Her blues became his song, her conundrum, a recipe for dysfunction, a formula for melancholia. We struggle to paraphrase cliches into something more meaningful by reaching for another voice, for an unfamiliar sound. We forgetting words we're afraid to say. Famous couples live infamous lives, eccentric, bizarre, tabloidian. The rest of us simply muddle through neurotic codependency. Grown from tentacular roots. He stole words from her mouth. He stole words from her mouth to make poems before he abandoned her. Words, images, diaries, songs, stolen. And she, bound, gagged, medicated, locked up, years of bipolar swings from adoration to rage and nitpicking every single flaw. Sexual, subject to flirtatious objects of dubious repute. She needed escape. Her fall from infatuation was a drop to chilling glares that looked through her, by her, made her invisible. There's still phantom pain where love used to live. Each gave walls that contained amorous ambition grew closer. Feel space, to touch each other. Love songs blow dog whistles of eerie reminders. Her parting words were, "You're so full of yourself," as if that was a bad thing. They missed each other, like trains going the wrong way through a tunnel. She couldn't hear him. He wasn't saying what she wanted. He wasn't saying what she already understood. I don't want to win that game anymore, he said. So they went a bit out of their minds. From hypocrisy, from mendacity, from illegality. And they stayed out of their minds. Celebrities live loudly while we hide, ashamed of how immoral we've been and weak. Their scandals, our obsessions, their disrepute, iconic. The most beautiful and richest fall from grace and land in recovery. We remain suspended, befuddled, calling for redemption, or Holy Ghost, or something magnanimous, screaming for the further, the sun, the outer sphere, the sky, for something bigger than we know. When he got up to play piano, strings with his fingers and slapped the sides and top with his hands long. Everybody wants to know why we sing blues. while we play black keys, we paint outside lines. What are we trying to be free from? Trying to be free from wars, shame, scandals, rich, beautiful lies. Free from jazz. Free from knowing. Illuminated search.
Okay, I'm going to tell a story. I used to pretty much spend my whole time, this was another lifetime, on the West Bank, on Cedar Avenue. They called it Snooze Boulevard. The Guild of Performing Arts was on Cedar Avenue, and right next door to the Guild of Performing Arts was Palmer's Bar. And then up the street just a little bit, on your way towards, the Joint, and that way, down Cedar Avenue, South Minneapolis, was the original Electric Fetus. That's where that started out, was right in this little storefront. And up above the Electric Fetus were these little tiny apartments. They had, just a bed and a sink, and some of the old people who, raised families in that area actually ended up in these small little apartments, because that was back after Heller Siegel built those big, we called them the cement shit houses, those huge, big multi-story cement apartment buildings. There used to be beautiful old duplexes back in there, and that's where a lot of the old people who would come into Palmer's during the daytime lived. And when I studied dance at the Guild of Performing Arts with Nancy Hauser and their company people, and I taught there and did a lot of choreographing there, I also ended up, I think about 1974 or 5, I think I ended up getting a job at Palmer's bartending. For a while I worked evening shifts, and then they needed some help during the daytime, so I started working the day shift, which was really interesting because a lot of the old people would come in and just sit, and I would talk with them, and I got along with them pretty well because I'm from St. Cloud. And we know how to talk to old people up there. And they have a lot of old people up in St. Cloud. And so they would tell wonderful stories about the old West Bank and Snooze Boulevard and Dania Hall and the ghost in Dania Hall and all of this stuff. And one of the people who lived right near Palmer's Bar was this wonderful woman. Her name was Jeannie. And she lived on the second floor. You remember Jeannie? She lived on the second floor, and right above the Electric Fetus. And her second home was Palmer's Bar. And she would come down in the daytime and hang out with her buddies. And Jeannie's eyes were kind of going to hell. And she had had some cataract surgery, and they messed up one of her left eye, as a matter of fact. They messed it up. So when she talked, she kind of had to squint her eyes a little bit. And when she came to Palmer's Bar, she carefully walked down the stairs, the wooden stairs, and come on Cedar Avenue. And she would walk along the side of the wall and rub her hands along the hand along the side of the wall, right by the Guild of Performing Arts, and come into Palmer's and sit down by that big glass block window that they had there. And she sat down, and I of course was there. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's where I pretty much lived. And I was, sort of continuing on what I was doing the night before. And Jeannie sat down and she said, "Hi, Tom, how are you?" And I went, "Oh, I'm doing fine, Jeannie. It's good to see how you're doing." "I'm doing just fine. Can you buy me a drink?" I said, "Sure, Jeannie, I'd be happy to buy you a drink." So she got her brandy and water or whatever it was. And we talked a little bit about some people in the bar and what she was doing in her family and stuff. And I bought her another drink, and she was kind of loosening up a little bit, and she said, "You know, Tommy, would you like to come up to my apartment with me?" Well, there's a lot of things I've been accused of, but age is just not one of them. However, life on the West Bank was really tough for old people. And it was a struggle. And one of the things that Jeannie struggled with was her own personal hygiene. And that day was not a good day for her. And, so I was trying to find excuses. So I said, "Well, Jeannie, I've been getting a lot lately, so I'm kind of tired. And, I just made shit up, And she said, "Well, I know, Jeannie, I know. But, maybe somebody like Henry, now we called him Horny Henry. And he was an older gentleman, and he would walk up and down Palmer's bar trying to pick up women. And he was very indiscreet about it. He would horn in between a guy and his girlfriend. And sometimes he'd get popped in the nose, and he'd come in the next day and he'd have a big black eye and his nose was running. And, but he was never deterred. He just kept right on, hustling. And I said, Jeannie, Henry is always looking for somebody, and I think you and Henry would get along just great. Why don't you take him up to you?" "No, Henry can't get it up." And I went, "Now wait a minute, Jeannie, how do you know that?" "Well, one time I had Henry up in my apartment, and he was on top of me, and nothing was happening. And I said, 'Henry, make something happen.' And he said, 'Well, maybe we can fold it in.'" And Jeannie looked at me and she went, "Tommy, how do you fold it in?"
Now for something completely different. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. That's our philosophical question for the night.
Woo! Now that you're all loose. Recently, I met a woman who was, frankly, having a hard time. And I didn't know her very well, but she was telling me very intimate details about her life. And I didn't want to be prescriptive or give her advice because she was already kind of fragile and at risk, actually. And so I happened to have my laptop with me, and I said, "Let me show you a porn." And she started reading the porn, and she couldn't get through the first page because she kept asking questions like, "Who is this? Who is this she? Is this about you? Who is this in this porn?" I said, "Well, you don't have to take it personally because when I wrote this poem, I hadn't met you, so it's not about you in that way. But I think if you read it, there might be something in it that you can use." And she couldn't get through it. So at that time, I hadn't planned to read this poem in this performance. But after having that experience, I thought, in case she or somebody like her is here, for you, for her, for you. The title of the poem is Esoteric. It has a lot of different references in history. Now, mostly, it means the story about this person that I recently met. She stands with bare feet on a marble bathroom floor. The temperature outside has not yet reached up to the predicted low for today. These days, she keeps mostly to herself. No one else can bear it. These cold, solitary dawns. When she thinks of love, she is confronted with the clumsiness of language in her head, saying too much and not enough. Managing insecurity is possible in imagination, but awkward out in the cold world. So she lives inside her own libidinous smells, subtracting anxiety, multiplying amorous intelligence quotients. When people ask her where she's going, she tells them where she's been. That's what she knows. She tells dark stories, channeling Wednesday. Tales with no direct translation into language. She hears deep songs of longing without objects, troubling sounds with gnostic moans, deep trouble, with cutthroat edges of dreams held hostage. The world that surrounds her is authentic, quilted with complexity, fragmented memories, stolen dreams. Her gaze has intrinsic power to fill shadows with broken light. What the world won't own lives on. The skins of drums, the scars of protesters, the bodies of dancers, accomplishments by people formerly known as slaves and burr-throated threndists who whispered, imagine love is a glass of water. Your love, my love, our love, and pour it where it's needed. She pours it on herself, then stands in a puddle on the cold floor, drenched in what she's never understood, in what she was taught God is, dripping love's dysfunction in the mirror. She sees ancestors, unborn children, her own soul. The world outside her reflection acts like it doesn't know, but she has to know. Like a sleeper knows dreams. The world outside is reluctant to peer through her eyes at themselves, but the ultimate price has been paid. So she pours a river past a rock. The sleeping world is dysfunctional because of misinformed dreams. They can't see themselves in ancient mirrors. They can't interpret wisdom in infant eyes. Beyond the murk of politics and language is responsibility for translation into something less proprietary. She understands the poetry of love. That's the least of it. It's a cloak hiding daggers, roses disguising thorns. Neither the bathroom nor its mirror were esoteric enough to reflect the hysteria of romance. It did, however, uncover a revelation. To find her way, she must acknowledge she is lost. Wearing nothing but new courage and a shiver, she embraces herself. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, that's one of mine. I really like it.
That's beautiful. Beautiful music. Excuse me. I'd rather do that on purpose than accidentally. Now we're to the penultimate point in the performance. Unless you insist on an encore.
That's called fishing.
And the baby going fishing too.
Salmon, I used to sing that with Carl. Oh, there's another one I can tell, Danny.
This is Until It Sounds Like Jazz. I don't like to answer the question when people ask me, well, what does that mean? So I just keep giving different answers every time somebody asks me, which means it sounds like jazz. I told you the recent inspiration for the ride. I think it came from the punker. He thinks it came from me. So it's community tropic. Now you can use it any time, any way you want to. And say it came from anywhere you want. I don't have any copyright on it. In fact, you can't have copyright on language. That's a lie. Nihilism compromises jazz. Bloodstreams and fault lines trap us in layers of inherited attitudes and ancient expectations. Dynasties of dubious repute align with catastrophe, darkness, ugliness, and the struggles of oppressed people, the raping of the earth, and too many beautiful blunders to count. My life is protest, a willful disobedience to status quo. My existence is a hunger strike until the occupation of my own body is more evident than being occupied by values and activities forced on me by the other, for the other, in service to their cause. I've grown accustomed to hunger, inconvenience, and awkwardness, becoming narcissistic in order to save my soul. Deriving erotic gratification from admiration of my own physical, spiritual, and mental attributes. This river is not flowing from a rock, but around it, undeterred. Its headwaters trickle in from melting consciousness that broke from ice that got too warm. Words, music, images, and kinetic expressions can heal our wounds if we are courageous enough to apply them like balm medication. If we use them to treat chronic cliche and rhetorical babble, our daily babble. Bouncing off the satellites. If we practice originality, life is on the line, if we wrap idea seeds in elephant dung and pour water on the ground, we may survive the onslaught of solar-side. It may be used on occasion to drive in nails, pound out dents, or to knock something loose from its obsolete connection. Art is not a hammer, though it has a claw end for fighting as well as a blunt head for brute force. I guess I've already contradicted myself, because the hammer in my hand has made an image in your mind as functional as the wood-headed iron head dangling from a carpenter's belt. Hammer, tool, and instrument. Knowledge for a xylophone. Gavel, call to order. Strikes piano string, the percussive cap striking the primer, the firing pin, the cop, the claw, prying loose music from limits and constraints, moving, raising, leveraging possibilities, and the cosmology of quantum reality. Art is not a hammer. But it's hammer time.
What about the claw and all that? It's the claw.
You can do whatever you want to in your mind.
That's right, you know.
It's called free will.
Don't go there late at night.
It's
by
called
yourself.
free will.
Oh, shit. What do you want to do now?
We're back to Wadada Leo Smith. If y'all don't know who he is, you better find out. You better ask somebody. You better Google Wadada Leo Smith.
Just don't say it walking down the street too much. People take you out.
That's the main place you gotta say it, is on the street, man. Wadada Leo Smith and his you remember, our music is based off of systems. He said our music is not appropriate to describe it as free jazz because our music is based off of systems and systems are not free. I didn't want to scare the readers away from this poem by titling it based off of systems, because right away, you know, some grammaritarians, how's that to butcher a word? Grammarians would say, well, you know, I'm not reading this, it's not. It doesn't matter how much sense you make it, it's not grammatical. I have an excuse to ignore that. So I wouldn't dare use a genius like Wadada Leo Smith to get their attention, but I will use it to give substance to my work.
You know how to fix a guitar.
Pardon me? So
It's okay. I got this.
I titled the poem, I paraphrase it, his quote into based on systems. It's also strongly influenced by a writer named Toni Morrison. You might have heard of her. She won a Nobel Prize, poetry, and some other stuff. What's paradise to the residents? Do they feel like nothing could be better, or are they occupying their counts for it? they step outside dominant narrative to tell other stories about how they were under before they got over? Now that there's more time in paradise, do they move slower to make sure they don't squander anything? Nothing happens fast enough if there's too much time. Before paradise, they walked on razors, broken glass, and water for 400 years. And they're still figuring out how to say, I'm human, I'm a being, not a commodity. I'm human, I'm being, not a commodity. I'm not a thing. 400 years. Used to scratch when I didn't itch, shuffle feet in place without walking. Take fewer steps now. Move when I'm headed somewhere. And hold back dance gestures. No need anymore to impress. Not afraid of failure anymore. Not even determined to succeed. When I was younger though, I used to dance more. Smile, grin, acted desperate all the time. Sometimes I still gesticulate loud, just to get some attention. But I stay there for the stage. Now I contain my enthusiasm in well-placed strides and nuanced moves. Dance is held back, acts are thought through rather than dictated by a beat. Ella, in a book called Beloved, said, don't love nothing, say it. Double negatives complicate rhythm, make feet unsure. Our music is based off of systems. The politics of romance, revolution, and race are all the same.